Hello and welcome to another episode of Swim Sets by the Pool podcast. This is the podcast where you get free swim workouts and tips on how to swim better. I'm Nathan Cohen. I'm a professional triathlete. I also swam one season at Ventura College. Shout out Pirates. And yeah, with me as always is Greg Harper. He is a pro triathlete too. Went to Olympic trials, raced Michael Phelps. Not sure who won. Maybe it was Greg. I don't know. It's unclear. But yeah, Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Everyone knows the Pirates, the Ventura College
Yeah,
Pirates.
Pirates, man.
They're a legendary team.
What's Cal's mascot?
Yeah.
Are they the trees or something? I
Who
don't.
knows, dude? Who knows?
Yeah,
That's not like an NC2A winning program or anything like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Who knows,
Um,
man?
and why should you should listen to me in my swim takes is because I'm just a product of amazing coaches my entire life. The coaches I had in college are the Olympic coaches for the U.S. swim team. I had a great age group coach. And I've always been a student of the sport. Nate started late. He's a student of the sport. And together, we bring differing perspectives, but we usually come to the same conclusions that you should just swim a lot and you should have fun because that's how
Yeah,
you're going to get good.
pretty much. So yeah, I've got a tip for you guys to start off this episode. I know we have a lot of people coming to the podcast for the first time, maybe newer swimmers, newer triathletes, people doing their first triathlon. So this is a tip for all of you, but also maybe some experienced swimmers could glean some knowledge from this. And it's practice different aspects of your swim stroke. So I have a few people who I teach swim lessons to who are trying to improve their swimming. And they're always like, Nate, should I breathe to both sides? Should I practice kicking? Should I do a tighter streamline off the wall? And the answer to all these questions is yes, do all of those things, because all of these things are focusing on different aspects of your stroke. It's great to be able to breathe to both sides. It's great to be able to do a tight streamline and go further off each wall. And it's good to practice your kick. So all these different aspects of your stroke create a complete stroke, which is how you get faster at swimming, more comfortable, all of those things. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
my quick tip.
that's a good quick tip. I will say one word of caution. There's so many things we can focus on. Just don't focus on all of them at once.
Yeah, that's true.
We got to pick one thing at a time kind of to focus on, but you can always have a solid kick. You don't have to specifically think about your kick to practice your kick, right?
Hmm.
It's like I remember when we were growing up, people were like, "Oh, can we practice turns?" Like the coach was like, "What do you mean? We're swimming a workout. You got all these turns every single rep that you're doing, right? We don't need to start from the middle and practice our turns." Which you might sometimes, right? Because you're focused on it, but we got plenty of chances to practice a good streamline, right? Every single wall. So yeah, I think that's a great quick tip. And just getting in the routine of doing good habits, makes a that's how you build the pyramid essentially, like these good habits over time. And then all of a sudden you look back in a year and you're like, wow, I'm way different. It's not because you made some one change, it's just little things over time. And that's how you get good. And that's how it's fun.
Yeah, that's some great advice, Greg. I love it. Honestly, I learn a lot from Greg just by doing the podcast. So this is great. Hopefully you guys are learning from both of us and we're helping you swim better. But yeah, so today's swim workout, I'm actually really stoked that I brought this to the table because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was getting a little bit envious of Greg. He's always swimming with these other pro triathletes. He brought a bunch of sets from Boulder when he was swimming with like Chase McQueen and all these people and stuff. But you know what? I brought Boulder to Ventura for this set. Not really, but
No-
in a way. So
hey, I don't always. So, it's you're swimming outside. I'm swimming by myself a lot these days. But yeah, here and there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, you got a little uh set from Holly Lawrence. You did this set with her in Ventura?
Yeah, so Holly Lawrence, great pro triathlete. She's been doing the sport for a really long time. And then also Gina, she's actually on the US national team for short course, one of the top short course athletes. They both live in Boulder, but it was too cold up there. So they came to sunny Ventura. We did this set together and we're going to talk about it. It was a pretty long set. And yeah, I kind of approach these sets from like the short course side of things because I mostly do sprint and Olympic. Greg, he's doing 70.3s and Ironmans. So that's also another different side to this podcast. We each kind of approach it from a different headspace. So yeah, but the warm up, it's kind of long, 600 swim, and then it says every fourth 25 backstroke, 400 pull, snorkel, buoy, band, and then 850s descend, 1 through 4, 5 through 8. So yeah.
It's a good one. I'm not a super big fan of pole and warm up, but I know lots of people who are great swimmers who are.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the thing. You got to find what works for you. People are like, "Oh, it helps me activate." And if that's good for you and it feels good and you take off the paddles and you feel good, fine. Personally, I don't like the feeling of like feeling weaker when I take off paddles, which is why I don't like
Hmm.
doing it. But I know plenty of people who do, and every fourth 25 backstroke of a 600, I love that. I'm all about the backstroke, especially in this day and age when we sit a lot, we ride our bikes, we're very in a hunch position. I think backstroke really opens up the front of your body in a positive way. And 850s descend 1 to 4, 5 to 8, perfect. As we say, switching through the gears, changing the gears, getting the heart rate up, ready for what is a 3,600 yard main set.
Yeah. Um, it was a cool warm up, and we didn't just swim 600 straight. I'll just put that out there now. We like swam like 200s or a 100 or just mixed it up. And I think I maybe did a little more than every fourth 25 backstroke. I maybe did like 100 backstroke in there. But yeah, it's about getting loose. Like Greg says, like feeling loose, opening up the back and the chest. And I just love that feeling of like having, I feel like I'm longer when I do backstroke, when I
Mhm.
put that arm back, and I'm just like really getting more of a stretch than when I'm swimming freestyle. So yeah, it's good.
That's why I like it too, and you can open up, like, even, like, your triceps and stuff too, like, even
Mm-hmm.
your arms, because you use them so much in freestyle, like, in the same way, but different. It's like the opposite, but it's not really the opposite. And like we said, don't worry about your times, even on the descend. I mean, maybe
Mm-hmm.
use the clock so you know you're getting a little faster, but if you're like, "Oh, that first descend fast was slow," it's like, yeah, it was the first lap you swam fast in the workout. It's not gonna feel that great
Mm-hmm.
unless you're, like, completely on one, like you're having an amazing day, which it just doesn't happen all that frequently. Like, you'll just have mostly steady days, you'll feel pretty normal, some days you'll feel a little bit worse, some days you'll feel a little bit better, and you gotta give yourself a chance to warm up and don't put pressure on yourself, with your times in the warm up.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, sometimes I like today I swam 3K and I did a little bit shorter of a warm up. So when I started the set, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm swimming a little bit slower. But then the next round, I was swimming like a good pace. I just need a little extra time, just a little extra warm up. So sometimes that happens.
Yeah, and the more you train, generally, it might take you longer to warm up. So,
Hmm.
if you're a triathlete and you're training more, you're doing more bike and run, it might take you longer in the pool to warm up.
Hmm.
So and bike and run for context. But yeah, the
Yeah,
more you train, the longer it takes to warm up. Boom. Tagline.
nice. Okay. So this is a 3,600 yard main set, and that's not including the easy swimming. So if you include the 200s easy, which weren't written down on this page if you're watching on YouTube, but yeah, we did a 200 easy after each 12 100s. So, oh my gosh, math. That's 4,200 for the main set. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's pretty simple. This is like a classic simple. I'm grinding out 70.3s. I'm a triathlete set. It's 12 by 100. Four were on the 125, and it says sub threshold, so a little bit slower than threshold. Four on 120, sub threshold. Four on 115, threshold, and then 200 easy. So yeah, Greg, what are your thoughts when you see this set? Would you do this
I
set?
like I would do this set for sure. Um I like descending I like blocks of 100s with like changing intervals and paces. I think that's a smart way to go about writing a structure of a workout because you kind of like you can work into it a bit. Maybe each round, those last four in threshold are a little bit better because you feel a little bit better or however it works. I think you just have a little bit of room to play with. And it's not like 12 ones hit 1 minute 3 times. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, there's some wiggle room. We're going by feel and effort here. And I haven't done a set exactly like this, but I've done similar sets. And I generally like that. The twists, usually, as you go faster, you get more rest, and on this one, you kinda get faster and you're slightly less rest, which I think is good. You can't
Mm-hmm.
always get more rest when you swim fast. Sometimes you need really short rest when you're swimming fast too. And if you're swimming fast, you're getting more like you're going faster, right? So it makes sense that the interval comes down. Um, yeah, so I like it so far. How did it go for you guys? I heard you didn't execute it properly.
No, I executed it in my own way. So it's three
So
rounds.
not
So
properly as written, I guess.
okay, yeah. Holly was giving me a little bit of flack. She said I was sandbagging. So for context, the first round we circle swam because we were contending with all the early old people who swim first thing at the pool. But then after that, the lane next to us opened up. So then I was swimming with my buddy Thomas. He's my swim workout buddy. And then Holly and Gina were in the lane next to us. So we all just kind of swam at the same time, two lanes right next to each other, all four of us on the second round. And so what I did on the second round is what the same thing I was doing for the first round. She just couldn't tell because we were circle swimming. I did the first four kind of just like smooth, just like easy-ish. And then the second four I did kind of like medium, and then the last four I did hard. That's kind of how I think about my swimming a lot. It's just easy, medium, hard. Some of the best coaches in the swim world just write easy, medium, hard for their athletes. So Holly was like, "Oh, you're sandbagging the first four," because then on the last four, so the first four I swam like 1 second slower than her. Second four I was swimming the same pace as her, and then the last four I would like swim a few seconds faster than her, and that's why she kind of like was giving me a hard time. Um, and so then the third round I did sub threshold for the first eight, and then by the last four I was a little bit tired, to be honest. I mean, it's the end of the set. It's like an end of a long set. And I noticed we all kind of faded a bit towards the end. Like maybe we started, I don't know, around like 102s or 103s. But then the last 100 of that set, we were doing like 105s, which is what we were
Hmm.
swimming for the middle four. So I was like, I don't know if that's good or not, if that's what
That's an
the kind of
interesting
goal of the
that's an
set
interesting
is.
question. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a pretty meaty set. And typically when you see sub threshold written, it's not like way below threshold. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if a coach writes that, they want you to be like close, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going 10 seconds slower per 100, or you're at 90% of threshold or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to do 3600 at 90% of threshold and above, at essentially 100% of your threshold is a massive set. And I think triathletes, they do too much threshold, I think. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the way you did it, I wouldn't say is the better way, but you just have to be really cognizant of the pacing. Like if you do 12, the first round, like sub threshold, it should feel pretty easy. And
Mm-hmm.
threshold should feel like controlled strong. But you have to give yourself chance to build. um, I would always get mad at people when I was growing up because they would start something like strong. And I'm like, okay, you're setting this pace now. You better hang on because I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to execute it from what you just did. And then they would fade off. And I'm like, now I'm here alone executing this set properly by myself. And I'm upset because you made me start way too hard. But, it makes you better. And I think there's a time and place for like failing a little bit. But I think that triathletes do a little too much, like 3600 of threshold work. Like you're not a pro swimmer. You can't do that much threshold work in a single workout and execute it properly, in my opinion. Or else it's not even your threshold.
Yeah, that's the thing too. And I was approaching it because like I've got a couple sprint triathlons coming up. We're swimming for like under 10 minutes. So I feel like for me, the limiting factor that I experience in sprint triathlons is that takeout speed and then staying with it, because these guys, everyone's fast in short course. Like they start so fast and then you have to like hang on to that high pace. Whereas I feel like in 70.3, now I've never done a 70.3, but like longer swims or Ironmans, I feel like the limiting factor is being able to hold that kind of strong pace for 30 minutes or like longer,
Yeah.
So I
I mean,
feel
it
like, yeah.
depends what race. And 70.3, like everyone's going pretty full gas these days. And they're big
Yeah.
start lines.
Mm-hmm.
But for an Ironman, maybe a little bit more reserved for sure. And Holly does, I mean, she might do an Ironman this year. I've heard rumors, but I think
Yeah.
she does more middle distance racing. And
Mm-hmm.
she did T100, which is, it is similar to short course.
Yeah.
Like you need that high end. And Holly has led out at big races before.
Yeah.
But I don't think she was ever super, super fast per se. I think she would kinda come in on that second half.
Yeah.
Um,
Kind of build
so,
into it.
her doing it how you did it, easy, medium, hard, she probably should throw a little bit in there of that
Hmm.
type of stuff where you're actually kinda going fast. Yeah, it's an interesting set. I wonder, did her husband or coach, Sean, write it for her? Because
Yeah, I
I
think
think he
Sean
writes
wrote
her
it. So
stuff.
Sean's her husband. He coaches her. Um, and yeah, I'm pretty sure he wrote this set. He came from a short course background. I was actually chatting with him today at the pool, and he's doing the same race I'm doing in Zimbabwe. He's like, "Oh yeah, I did that like years ago. It was kind of crazy and stuff." It's pretty
Oh,
funny. So
yeah.
yeah,
No, he's a really good athlete.
yeah,
He was like almost a 4-minute miler,
yeah,
something really fast. Yeah, so it's interesting. I think triathletes and pros too, and I've seen the Norwegians do stuff like this too. They're like, "Oh, 6 or 8 400s threshold, and then 5 100s VO2." I'm like, it's you have to start way below threshold if you want to finish at threshold because it's too much like muscular endurance or
hmm,
whatever it is. You can't do that much threshold at, appropriately in a workout. And
yeah.
yeah.
And the way I think about it too is how much time and distance are you accumulating at the effort or pace that you're trying to do for your event, you know? Because swimming for 9 minutes all out is a lot different than swimming for 25 minutes, you know? Like it's it's a different, it just feels a lot different kind of thing. So yeah, and like I
Says
said,
the guy who's never done a 25-minute race swim. No, I'm
no,
just
I
kidding.
do those all the time in the summer.
Not in 17.3s. I'm
not
telling you,
not in
a sprint
70.3s, but
triathlon
yeah.
sprint triathlon on a Conti Cup versus like a T100 race or a 70.3 high level, it's not that different. I mean, like,
Yeah.
yes, you just have to hold, you still have to go out. Maybe it's not quite as fast, and then you just have to hold something that's, very strong for a long period. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, a 400-yard swim versus a 30-minute, it's different. But I think when you're getting like 10 minutes versus 25 minutes or 20 minutes, it's like not that different.
Mhm.
Obviously, small tweaks, but versus an Ironman, I would say it's very different.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm also kind of thinking about from like the age group perspective or someone who only has like 10 hours a week to train or less, the difference between like say the pace they can hold for a 5K versus a half marathon, if they just were to like isolate those, like mentally they probably can go harder for like the 5K versus like a half marathon, whereas like elite athletes can like hold themselves in that like focus spot
Yeah,
for like that half and stuff. So it's like a
like a
little
higher
different.
percentage of
Yeah, yeah.
threshold for longer, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm
100%.
kind of talking about. So yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And we always stress speed on the show anyway, and it's super important. Like, you don't need to go grind threshold stuff and sub threshold versus threshold. It's like just swim a fair amount, do all the zones, and don't neglect your speed because in the end, speed is efficiency.
Hmm.
And that's what we always say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it looks like a good solid workout. I If I were to do this workout, it's like if you go 105s, 104s, 103s
Hmm.
on the say the last four, right? Like you did,
Yeah.
or you go 103s, 103s, 105s, like,
Hmm.
I'd rather see the first one. Even though it's technically on the second one, you might have gone a little bit faster in totality. I
Hmm.
just would rather see you finish strong. I think that's always really important. And the going for it and failing is like once in a blue moon type of situation. Like, I'd rather see someone leave a little bit on the table, finish strong, and know that they had a little bit more in the tank. Because that's how you back up sessions
Hmm.
day to day, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And then also, if you're new, say you're doing like your first 70.3 this year, maybe start off with just like one round of these or a two or something. Cause like 3,600 is a long time if you're like just jumping into it. So yeah, but if you are a pro listening to this podcast, I don't know, maybe like Ari who's listening, dude, smash it. Smash the set.
Yeah, smash the set. Just do a butterfly.
Do a butterfly,
Um,
yeah. And then yeah, 400 warm down. Oh yeah, and last thing on this set, those 200s, we had no interval for those. It was just like easy swim around, get back to the wall, chit chat a
yeah,
bit, and then go on the next top or whatever. So yeah, yeah, that was the
that's
set.
how it should. That's how it should be. Especially if you're gonna do like a 1200 chunk. Like, don't oh, my 200 easy has to be on 240. It's like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
swim easy, do a little backstroke. If you do a 150, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I would like, when there was 200 easy, it's always like a little bit long. You know, you're
Yeah.
like, all right, I think I'm good with like 4 or 6 laps. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
You just need like 4 minutes to like decompress and then restart again, you know?
Yeah. Okay, great.
Well, I guess that's leading us out with the hot take. And this was inspired by a guy at the pool today. I don't want to be mean and say don't ever do this, but I think your priorities are backwards. If you can't flip turn, you shouldn't be using gear. Like your priorities are messed up. Like you need to do fundamentals first and then use gear as tool. So yes, that's my hot take. If you cannot flip turn, don't be using gear. Figure it out first, then you can use the gear. That's how you graduate in the swimming
Dang.
levels.
Flip turns are important, people. You heard it here first. And you're probably gonna hear it here last as well. We're gonna die on that. Flip turns aren't important hill. So yeah,
100%.
sweet. Thanks for listening to this episode, you guys. If you liked it, share with your friends. Do this set with a friend. Like, text that buddy who you want to swim with and be like, "Hey, I've got a hard set. We're gonna do it this week," and then do this set.
Heck yeah. All right. Cheers. Thanks, Nate.